Our job is to be one voice for American farmers and ranchers, but it's also for us to take care of our communities too.
As president of the American Farm Bureau Federation, Zippy Duvall often goes toe-to-toe with some of the most powerful people in the world, all to support and advocate for those who do the hard work within the agricultural industry.
From trying to help people experiencing mental health issues to whether or not they're having difficulty with farm service agency, or whether it may be taxes or labor, whatever those issues are that we work on each and every day. And not just me, a whole team of people at American Farm Bureau. It's our mission to make a difference in people's lives that are farming and ranching and living in rural America.
For Zippy, it's a labor of love born from a lifetime on the farm.
I remember as a child, Dad waking us all up and us going to the barn, milking the cows before we went to school. In the summer times it was full of cutting and baling square bales of hay and putting them in every vacant house and loft around the community. And then of course, every once in a while we get to swim in the river and play a little bit and hunt a little bit, but not a lot. Most of the time we was working.
He and his two brothers grew up working the dairy farm with their father. Zippy, who was the middle child, eventually left for college, but returned to take over the family business after his father's health began to fail.
When I came back home and bought the dairy out, I remember sitting at my mother and father's breakfast table, because that was before I married, and complaining about regulations and milk inspectors and mastitis and heat stress and all these things that you have to deal with as a dairyman.
Those frustrations are what ultimately led Zippy to the Farm Bureau.
My dad says, well, son, if you want to find solutions to those answers, that they're controlled by other people in Washington or in Atlanta when they're making policy. And he said, you're going to have to get outside your fence rows and get involved with other organizations to be able to make a difference there.
Shortly after, Zippy went to his first Farm Bureau meeting. He was elected a young farmer chairman of the Greene County Farm Bureau. And as they say, the rest was history.
I served as chairman of the Young Farmer Committee in Georgia, was nominated to the national level, served as chairman at American Farm Bureau, and had the honor and privilege of serving on the board with 34 of the most powerful men in agriculture that year as chairman of that committee.
His service to the community later extended even further to the office of the county commissioner, the rural electric board, and as a deacon at his church.
My daddy taught me, says you got to give back to the community that gave so much to you. So my life has just kind of followed the same path that he did, because he was county commissioner and farmer. And so I was kind of second generation county commissioner.
Zippy did it all while still keeping the family farm afloat, even during some of the most challenging of times.
During the 80s, when the farm economy was so bad, and I had been dairying about 9 years, we were just about to starve to death here. And so we looked for a way to diversify. So in 1986, I built 2 chicken houses, and that's why they're named Bonnie Duval Farm. They were built for her, and she ran them for a couple of years, and then we decided we were going to have more children, and I inherited her work. So
it meant long work hours, 7 days a week, with little to no time off. That's because he says most in the agricultural industry reinvest their profits to make improvements on their farms and ranches so that they can keep their herds healthy and their crops hardy. But that usually means becoming a jack of all trades.
You got to know how to wire a motor, you got to learn how to change oil in your trucks and fix a flat tire, and whatever goes wrong, you got to figure out how to do it, because there's not enough income here, and the margin is not wide enough to be able to hire people to do those kind of things. So,
despite the challenges, Zippy says running the family farm was more rewarding than he could have ever imagined.
So I've raised 4 children here. Had 40 years with my wife. Wouldn't have changed a thing. It was just an awesome place to grow up. Knowing that I walk in the same footsteps that my granddaddy and my daddy did. I mean, it gets emotional. It's the lessons that we learn, because that's what life is really about. Taking care of people, working hard, working late until the job's done, and make sure that you do it to please others, not to please yourself.
As Zippy looks toward the future and considers how he can help take care of the farmers and ranchers he serves in his role as president of the Farm Bureau, He says technology and bringing broadband access to all of rural America is critical.
First, it's not a luxury anymore, it's a necessity for this day and time. We're going to be able to spray individual weeds, which is going to cut down on the amount of chemicals that we have to use on a crop, which will better protect our soil and the water and the land. In dairy there, when you look at the other technologies across agriculture, precision farming, we're coming up on really quick. And it's just kind of all over the board in every phase of agriculture. There's some kind of technology.
That technology can help with a myriad of things, from replacing some traditional labor to improving efficiency, to knowing simply when to sell so you get the best price for your crops or herd.
A lot of these technologies that I just talked about wouldn't work without broadband. You have to have those technologies to work. Yes, it's going to be expensive, but we figured out how to do it with electricity. There's no reason why we can't figure out how to do it with broadband.
And he makes a compelling argument for why investing in rural America's broadband infrastructure is necessary.
Food production in our country is just as important as our military. It's about national security. You can take our computers away, you can take our cars away, you can take all the luxuries of life away, but you can't take food and water away. And we produce that food and we protect that water.
These days, the Duval farm looks a little different than when Zippy was a child.
If you saw pictures of it, when my grandfather come here, it was 100 acres in a gully, a big gully. And now it's 600 acres of rolling green grass.
He still raises cattle, but they're no longer dairy. And in recent years, his wife Bonnie passed away.
I couldn't have asked for a better wife. She would have followed me to the end of the world, but she gave great advice and she was so patient with me. And just a really down-to-earth, hard-working Southern lady is what she became.
The farm remains a happy place filled with memories of the family they raised together and is still visited by their grandchildren.
We had a good time in our life, and we especially had a good time raising our children. I see all these families say, I can't wait till my children get old and get gone. Well, we didn't want them to be gone because we enjoyed them so much.
In the months and years since Bonnie passed, Duval has found love again. His new bride, Jennifer, is also a widow who grew up in the area and connected with him over their shared experiences and mutual appreciation of family, which for them includes local farmers and ranchers.
And if somebody gets hurt or loses a barn to fire or storm, we're there to help them. And that it's just a big family and big community.
Now, decades after that first Farm Bureau meeting in Greene County, Georgia, Duval is still excited about working to help other farmers and ranchers.
Listen, I've traveled this country in this job, and I've been to all 50 states and Puerto Rico. And I don't go to see the sites, I go to see the farmers. They're the grassroots of our organization, and they're the power and strength of our organization. So I want to go see how these issues are affecting them on their farm.
But if the time comes for him to pass the work on to another, Zippy says his dream job would be a simple one, being a dairyman all over again.
I'd love to come back home, milk 40 cows, be able to bottle the milk, load them up in the back of my truck, and hand deliver them to every family up and down the road, know the children, know the husband and wife, know the families, and have a relationship with them, see the smile on their face when they pick the bottle up. Now, that would just be a dream job. Of course, I'd go broke trying to do that.